This is Rounding Third, Boston Podcast. Harrison Smith and Nick Arno are breaking down every pitch, every game, and every series. Live every week. This is your home for all things Red Sox. Let's talk.
Welcome back into Rounding Third Boston. After we had a week off last week, we're back with episode 5, the story of spring training so far. I am Nick, and we have Harrison. How are we doing tonight, Harrison?
Fantastic. Great to be back, Nick. How we doing?
Doing pretty well. We got a lot of stuff to get into Red Sox-wise. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can also follow on Instagram, Rumble, TikTok, all the platforms pretty much. And you can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. You can find our affiliate programs at the top of our socials to Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shop, and Lids. If you shop through these companies, please do it through our links. We get a nice little kickback with no additional cost to you. And it's just a way to support the show without us asking you directly for cash. So please do that. And thank you to everyone that has done it already.
They are always running some crazy deals. So if you're in the need, if you need something or just want to buy yourself a little present, I got to buy some lacrosse gear here pretty soon. So I'll be on Dick's Sporting Goods website. So check it out.
Yes, absolutely. And we also have our Rounding Third Baseball on Etsy. It's our merch. We have nice little tumblers. We have license plates. We have car magnets. Anything that supports us as a podcast, you can go on there and find our merch on there. And we'll be adding other stuff to the store as we keep going, as the season goes along. So make sure you keep an eye on that. You can find that on our Facebook and socials as well. All right, let's hop right into it. And for me, the Red Sox right now, it's all about the top prospects right now. It's these three. It's Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Meyer. Where do you see these guys really fitting in with the roster? Do they make the team out of spring? What's your feeling about them going forward right now?
I mean, I think the Red Sox are giving them every chance they can to make the team. These guys are getting a lot of at bats. They're getting a lot of time on the field, which is great. You know, let's see what they've got. I will say I've been really impressed with Marcelo Meyer. The way he handles his at bats, the way he controls the at bat. That was one thing they had talked about probably coming out of the 2022 season, going into 23, is they wanted to see him really take that step forward and have professional at bats. He was working on that through 23. He worked on it through last year, and it was looking great. He was looking great at the plate. He tore AA apart, got into AAA and was doing pretty well there. So I think that's a great sign. Campbell's very raw, very young, insanely skilled. And Roman Anthony's a different animal. This guy is super young, but he looks like he's been doing this for years at this level. So I think the Sox are giving him every opportunity to make the team. I saw a rumor today, and I'm trying to go find where I saw it, that the Red Sox are back in the market for a right-handed outfield bat. I don't understand that rumor, given the fact you've got players you're trying to slot in. I get the need for right-handed bats, but I find that surprising. But I think you're going to see one of these guys make the team. I'm just not sure who it is. I feel like they're going to try to slot one of these guys in.
Yeah, I think it's the status on Devers that's kind of like up in the air maybe a little bit. Like, has he played in the spring yet? I haven't seen him play yet.
Who?
Devers.
No, he was supposed to debut yesterday, I think, and I don't think he did. I didn't see him.
Yeah, because I'd heard rumors that March 5th he was supposed to be in the lineup, and I haven't seen him yet. So he still could be on the shelf a little bit, or they might nurse his shoulder a little bit more until he's ready. And we'll get into the rest of the team because the rest of the team is shaping up. So Wednesday,
they announced yesterday they were going to push him to Wednesday to give him a few extra days.
Okay. But yeah, it just gives these three kids more opportunities, like you said, and Mayer with a couple great games in there. Campbell has struck out quite a bit this spring, but he's put together good at bats. I wouldn't say that like he's an automatic strikeout every time he goes up. Like he battles in his at bats. But for me, out of these three, I think it's Roman Anthony that's kind of the guy that makes his way onto the team. What are your thoughts? If you had to pick one of the three.
Yeah, I mean, I think of anybody. I think the guy most ready is Roman Anthony. I think Mayer's right behind him. I will say Christian Campbell was in the outfield yesterday. Yesterday, I think it was. Will your Abreu's hurt, likely to miss sometime in April. They're trying. I think honestly, the Red Sox are trying really hard to find a way to get his bat onto the team because they want a right-handed hitter. So it'd be interesting to see Campbell, as a steady outfielder. But I do think that Anthony's the most likely to make the team. He's the most ready. Marcelo Mayer's right behind him. I mean, he's been really impressive. If Trevor Story gets hurt, I would imagine Mayer's up in a heartbeat. And I think of the group, I think Campbell's the least ready, but may have the most raw talent because he's something when you watch him. But he's clearly young. You're seeing him get overmatched.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
one interesting wrinkle in this whole thing, though, Nick, is that with Devers not playing, it's allowing the Red Sox to get a prolonged look at Alex Bregman at third base.
Yeah.
I am beginning to wonder if they're actually going to move him to second base, or are they going to leave him at third and basically tell Devers this is what's going on? Given the fact he has not played yet, given the fact he's still got the shoulder issue, I am starting to wonder, are the Red Sox going to say, sorry, Raffy, like you're clearly not ready. We're not going to wait. Bregman's the third baseman. You're going to DH. We'll revisit at the All-Star break or something. And therefore, now you've got a chance to bring more than one of these kids to the roster.
Yeah, we'll talk about Bregman a little bit more in depth later on, but I think you almost have to, right? The status of Devers is up in the air. Like you have to go in, especially what we're going to get into on the big show. Are the Yankees are in trouble, and if you want to be the top of the AL East, possibly the top of the American League, you got to put the strongest team you can out there. And I think that's Bregman at third base. I do. I love Rafi Devers, but I want Bregman at third. And if Devers is nursing that injury, that shoulder, you got to put at Bregman at third base.
Yeah, and I think if you read between the lines a little bit at what Cora said the other day when they were talking about Devers and what Breslow had said last week, I think there is a level of frustration from the Red Sox with Devers. I feel like, yes, they agreed to take it slow and not to push it with him, but I do feel like they think he's playing a game right now. There was kind of a general kind of blah attitude from Cora talking about it, kind of it is what it is sort of situation, which makes me think they don't believe that he needs the time, that he's literally just choosing to sit and make a bigger deal out of this whole thing, which is not helping him.
No, not one bit. Let's jump to Sandy Alcantara. Now, there are rumors flying like crazy that this guy's going to get moved, and the Sox are, rumored to be in, like full, and as they should. But what would you give up given his injury history?
I mean, there's no way one of the big three isn't in that trade.
Right.
There's one of those guys is going. I don't love the idea of giving either of them up, but if you're going to get a healthy Sandy Alcantara, I'm okay with it. But I feel like at a minimum, you're giving up one of the big three, maybe somebody off the major league roster and a couple of younger prospects. And I would be okay with that. If they want more than that, if it's more than just one of the big three, a lower level prospect or a couple lower level prospects and maybe somebody off the major league roster, I would have a problem with it because I don't know what you're getting. Healthy, he's one of the probably 5 or 6 best pitchers in baseball. Yeah. If the question is going to be, is he going to be healthy and how long is he going to be healthy for?
Yeah, I'm with you. One of the big three has to go. The Marlins are rebuilding from the ground up, and all the guys they have on their roster have years and years of control. Like they don't have anybody that's in there for like 1 or 2 years and gone. Like they're all young. And Alcantara is kind of the last big one to kind of go out of, those big contract guys.
Yep.
I would give up one of the big three. I would say that Roman Anthony's untouchable. I would be okay for Meyer, I think, to go. It's like you said at the beginning, it seems like Campbell has the most raw talent, has the most potential. Meyer's been kind of sitting in the minor leagues, not making big strides. And if the Marlins have good scouts, they'll see that, and they might not even ask for Meyer. But I would be okay with Meyer going. I know he's the middle infield of the future, possibly, but we still have 4 or 5 years with Story to figure that out.
Right.
If Meyer does go, because Alcantara definitely puts this team over the hump, and starting pitching is something the Sox have needed for a long time. And finally getting Crochet and Buehler in there, and you add this third arm in there with the status of Giolito and Sandoval kind of up in the air. Oh my God, this would be probably one of the best top three, if not the best top three in baseball going into next year.
Yeah, and you'd have 3 years of Sandy at 17, 17, and 21.
Yes, please.
So incredibly affordable. He's a free agent again in 2028 when he turns 32. Keep in mind, the guy's only 29. Feels like he's been around a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I think Marcelo Mayer anywhere else but Boston is already on the big league roster.
Yeah.
He's been blocked by Trevor Story. There's been a lot of talk this spring training that as good as Story looks, he doesn't look like a shortstop anymore. There's a lot of talk about he's lost the step, the range is down, all possible. I mean, he's not getting any younger. He has suffered some injuries over the last few years that have probably slowed him down some. So there's some talk about, how much longer is he realistically a shortstop? It's like we talked about a few weeks ago. I mean, in the future, I see Trevor Story becoming a third baseman.
Yeah.
In which case, when Bregman goes, maybe he slides to third, and that's when the two young guys come up together and take over the middle infield. That could be a year or two, who knows? But I think that given the contract, given the just the raw talent that Sandy offers to you, one of the big three has to go. I think the easiest one to get to trade off is Marcelo Mayer, because his path to the majors is a little more cloudy than Campbell and Anthony. I agree with you. Anthony is number one, far and away, untouchable. You could offer everything, and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, Brett, I agree with you. We are going to get into Story and Bregman a little bit later, but he looks really damn good right now. He's swinging the bat very well. Hope he can stay healthy. Hope he's back to his old Colorado self, because I would take that Trevor Story in a heartbeat.
Well, it'd be nice to get the Trevor Story we were really excited to have signed originally, because, I mean, healthy. He's a monster. He just hasn't been healthy. And it's not because he's dealing with like these little oddball injuries. Like, these are like max effort, just fluky things, diving attempt and you jam up your shoulder and miss the year. Like, this isn't like he tweaked an ankle and couldn't come back. Like, he was going all out on a play and hurt himself.
Yeah. That one was a tough one to watch for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see Alcantara in Boston. Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure. But rumors are flying. So let's keep our fingers crossed here.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind too with Sandy is that the Marlins are also fielding calls from the Mets on him. And there's also a belief that if Garrett Cole goes down, that the Yankees are going to start calling too.
Yeah. Again, I was going to talk about that in the big show after this was, with and Luis Gil going down for the Yankees, the Red Sox need to pounce now before the Yankees get involved, because the Yankees aren't going to sit back.
No, the door's been left open. The Red Sox need to pounce and take away their options. And same boat for the Mets. The Mets already were thin on starting pitching.
Yep.
And now you've got guys going down. And you're going to have to start plugging holes there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But more importantly, Nick, do you actually think we see Sandy Alcantara move before opening day? Realistically?
It's the Marlins, man. I don't know. Possibly. I know that doesn't answer your question, but I don't know what the Marlins are trying to do. Like, do they want to have their roster set before the season starts? Do they want to get all of this out of the way before the season starts, or do they just not care and they, send him somewhere mid-year and hopefully get the biggest haul for him? I don't know. I mean, the Marlins are going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they get this done before opening day. But it also wouldn't shock me if they don't, because the Marlins aren't really in a hurry to do anything. So that's kind of my hold up there is I just don't know. I don't know what their thinking is. I know they want to get rid of him, but probably only if the price is right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for them, I think they're going to get more at the trade deadline or later in the year once he proves he's healthy and can pitch. But at the same time, I don't think they want to pay him going into the season knowing they're not going to be good.
Yeah.
We're not trying to win. There's no attempt to win. The Marlins they were just ranked number 16 in terms of their farm system. They could utilize some young studs coming into the system to prop that up, because the future's only as bright as the depth is.
Right.
And without that, it's an even longer rebuild.
Yeah. So here we go. We'll dive into Trevor Story and Alex Bregman right now. Their bats are on fire. And Bregman's leadership seems to be shining throughout the organization. It seems like every story I click on, everyone is high on Bregman's leadership. The other day, he got on the bus. He wasn't playing in the split squad or whatever. He got on the bus with the prospects and went to their game with them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's somebody that is going to make a difference in this organization, whether he's here for 1 year or the 3 years, hopefully. But that's incredible. And that is definitely something the Red Sox need when we were just talking about Devers seems to be loafing around, and the supposed face of this franchise. You need to have somebody step up and be a leader. And Bregman's been around long enough. Say what you want about the Astros. So I get it. But he knows how to win. He knows what it takes. And if it's propping these young guys up and making them better ball players, I'm all for it. And I love it. I love it. I love all the stories coming out about him right now.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me of back in the days of the guys like Veritek, the guys like Millar, the guys like Damon, that would spend the time with the young players. They would show up at the minor league facilities. They would go hang out with them. I remember the days when Big Papi or one of those guys would come through Portland or Pawtucket at the time, and how they took care of those guys when they were there.
Right.
There was such an atmosphere of trying to help each other get better, which this team hasn't had in a long time. There hasn't been that kind of cohesiveness. You haven't had that one person that did all this stuff. And Bregman, as we've said, he's won everywhere. He is a professional. He's a grinder. He's the kind of guy that you want on your ball club. Love him or hate him from the Astros days. He is that guy, which is why he's won everywhere he's ever been. He's always been a winner. And there's something to be said about that. There's a reason for it. It's not just luck.
Yeah, right. And it also helps that he's pretty damn good too.
Yeah, I mean, he's all right. I mean, he's not a bad baseball player, but he also he has a way about him. Like, he says the right things. He's, I think of like the old days of the Tom Brady mold, like get there early, stay there late, do your job, take care of everybody around you. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah.
And apparently all the reporting on him has been the fact that the players just love him. They love being around him. They love him in the clubhouse. They love him on the field. That he's just one of those guys that people like want to be around.
Yeah. And that's what the Red Sox need, I think, to turn the corner here and start competing again consistently. Right. You think of the Big Papi days and how successful the Red Sox were during his career in Boston. It's because they had that glue guy. Ortiz was that glue guy. Hell, he's still that glue guy, keeping that Fox show together.
Well, and he still shows up from time to time and gets everybody riled up and rallied. And this is a great way it's collective team character. That's exactly what I would call it, Alan.
1,000%. Perfect.
Yeah. He creates that. And the Red Sox haven't had that the last few years. Guys like Duran have come in and they've changed the culture a little bit. But like nobody's kind of come in and stood in the middle of that whole thing and like brought it all together. It just seems like Bregman is. He's great to the young guys. He's great with the veterans. He's great with the front office. I think fans will grow to love him. But he's just a gamer. He shows up every day to put the work in.
Yeah. I obviously don't know what he's like in the clubhouse. We're not there. But it seems like he's that quiet leader, right?
Yep.
He goes in and he works his ass off every second that he's there on the field, off the field, whatever. Like he's there. And that's what you need. You need that leader that shows everybody like this is how it's supposed to be done. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's some clips that came out the other day of Bregman. It was, I want to say maybe Thursday or Friday night after the game, like on a backfield by himself, having somebody hit him fungos. Everybody's gone. Ballpark's dark, lights are on. It's just him on a backfield.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff people see it and go, oh wow, like this guy's serious. But like that level of dedication raises everybody else's game around you.
Right.
And we've heard all kinds of great things about him over the years. And now like actually seeing it and hearing it from the Red Sox players and the Red Sox reporters who are talking to him, it makes me actually think the loss to Houston is bigger than we thought. If he's that kind of guy, especially when you've been there for as long as he was, like you become, you're the old man there. Like you're the ringleader.
Right.
Bringing that to Boston, I think is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, it is huge. Like that backfield ground balls. Yes, he's taking it by himself, reportedly the other day. But tomorrow that turns into 3 guys taking ground balls after the game. Then it leads to 5 guys taking extra ground balls. Like it snowballs. It really does. You have that one guy that's like, hey, I'm going down to the cage to get, 200 extra swings. You coming? Like, yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything. Let's go. Then that turns into like, team BP. That's just the type of leader the Red Sox have needed for the last few years here. And I'm excited to see what this season brings. This is probably the most excited I've been for a Red Sox season in a little bit.
Yes.
The whole Mookie Betts thing was painful, and it just seems like we haven't been able to get back on track for real. Yeah, 2021 was kind of a fluke.
Yeah, it was a fun season, but it was like a bonus.
Right, exactly. And I feel like the Red Sox are finally like we're not quite back on track, but they're getting there. And they're really close.
Yep.
So, but I'm excited for the potential of this season for sure.
Yeah, and I go back to, given the Devers situation, like this is all stuff that is not good for Devers. Bregman taking ground balls in the backfield after the game. They showed a video of Devers taking ground balls middle of last week, and they were like lackadaisical, half speed. It's like he looked like he was just going through the motions out there, which got a lot of bad press.
Yeah.
Plus the fact he doesn't look like he's in shape at all. And then you got Bregman.
Rounds of shape, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean he's looking more like Pablo Sandoval than Alex Bregman, but it's not helping his cause to see Bregman start, fitting in so well. And what's also cool is you look at the big 3, the young big 3. Those guys are cage rats. Like they've got games they're playing. So they say you go into the cages in the morning and at night, and those 3 are in there together, music on, going through hitting progressions, work using the launch angle monitors, using the pitch machines. Like they're taking hundreds of pitches from guys they're going to see in preparation, but they made it like a game. They've got weighted bats, short bats, skinny bats, music going. They're charting things like they've like gamified practice, but they say those guys are always together and always in the cages, always like competing and making a game out of it. And like, that's what's coming up to the system now is this quality of player.
Yeah.
And I will go back to, this is what they hired Chaim Bloom to do. And he did it, and he still got fired for it.
Yeah. Crazy. But John, you're right. Yeah. The Red Sox have to hop on it right now, especially with the Yankees going down like they are. And we'll get into that, like I said, in the other show. But
yep.
All right. Bayo and Pedro. This kind of came out like a week and a half ago, but we didn't get to talk about it last week because we didn't do the Boston show. But could Pedro be an X factor for Bayo's success going forward? I mean, it can only help, right?
I was going to say emphatically yes. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you think of pitchers that that not only perform but are like held in such high regard in Boston. And Pedro's at like the top of the list.
I would say baseball and period. Like
Oh yeah,
not
I mean,
just Boston, but
baseball in
like,
period. But in terms of like the Boston
oh,
history,
for
like
sure.
Pedro sits on a throne. He is idolized by Red Sox fans. And I think being around Pedro's mindset and his approach and his toughness is huge, because what we've seen from Bayo is great stuff. He easily gets rattled, and he lacks true command. He can throw pitches for strikes. He just can't he can't set batters up. It's like we were talking about a video about Greg Maddux the other day, like where he set Bagwell up months in advance for a playoff game they hadn't even played yet.
Yeah.
Like Pedro was always setting you up for this at bat, but also the next one and the next time you faced him.
Yeah.
Like there is a level of preparation and thought that goes into the approach that Bayo just doesn't have yet. He's too young. He's too raw. But what he's shown is incredible stuff that if you can match that with all of the kind of the mental side of Pedro's game, he could be like Pedro 2.0.
Yeah.
But there's no way hanging out with Pedro is going to hurt him. It's only going to help him.
There has been interviews with Pedro that said, like, listen, this kid could potentially have better stuff than I did, which is nuts to think.
Yeah.
You know, like the raw ability, he could have Pedro Martinez like stuff. But just like you, like 80% of baseball is mental, the other half is physical, right? To quote Yogi Berra.
That's
like,
right.
And it is like it is all about playing that chess game with hitters. So the viral video that Harrison was referencing to, I sent him last night, was Greg Maddux wanted to stay away from Jeff Bagwell, wanted to live on the outside part of the plate, but they knew they were going to face the Astros in the playoffs. So he goes, listen, he calls Eddie Perez out to the mound. He goes, I'm only going to throw fastballs inside, and he's probably going to take me deep. Literally said that to Eddie Perez.
Yeah. In a game they're winning 8-0, that Maddux could go and finish a shutout.
Right. And he goes, I don't care, because they're seeing them in 3 months in the playoffs. And he meets Bagwell, strikes him out on 3 changeups on the outside corner. Like, that's Greg Maddux thinking way ahead and playing chess, not checkers. Like, absolutely insane. And that's what Pedro brings to Bayo for sure. Yes, all the mechanical stuff with the changeup, all the nasty stuff that Pedro had as well. But learning to set up hitters is definitely something that young kids need to start learning again in a game that is completely like, I'm just going to rear back and throw 103 by you. Like, you have to have guys that are finesse pitchers along with their nasty stuff in order to succeed in this game.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like so much of pitching at this level, everybody's got great stuff. Like you don't get to Major League Baseball without great stuff. That might be like the most blanketed statement ever gets used. Like he's got great stuff. They all got great stuff.
Right.
But it's what you do with that stuff, and also how you set hitters up that makes those guys so elite. You know, there's a reason that guys like Pedro and you look today, like, you know, Paul Skeens has tremendous talent, but watch how he pitches guys. Watch at bat number 1 versus a bat number 2. Like, he has a game plan for how he's going to approach you.
Yep.
So his great stuff paired up with a plan is very dangerous.
Yep.
That's what makes these elite guys so much better. And if you can get Bayo even part way there with the stuff he's got, he will be so much better because of it.
Yeah. And Pedro has said, he's like, my best pitches in an at-bat aren't strikes. My best pitches, like, you think about that, you're like, my best pitches in an at-bat aren't strikes, because it's setting up my next pitch. Like buzzing a guy up and in, which we all know Pedro was not afraid of.
He did it a few times.
To set up his changeup on the outside corner, that was absolutely devastating. Like, a hitter can't touch. He just buzzes your tower at 99 and then drops a 89-mile-an-hour changeup on the outside corner with, 12 inches of lateral movement and drop on it. You're not touching that. And that's the type of stuff that I hope that he can get through to Bayo going forward, because this kid could have really, really great stuff and a good career.
Yeah, there were very few pitchers that were better at seeing the tendency of a hitter, or being able to predict their approach, or being able to kind of guide what they wanted to do than Pedro. I mean, he was just playing games with you out there. Yeah. If your foot was turned in, he'd bust you inside. If you opened up a little bit, he'd go away. Like, he was watching everything you did to know what he needed to do.
Yeah, insane.
He probably knew what you had for breakfast that morning to determine what kind of energy you bring to the ballpark. Like,
no doubt.
He knew exactly what you were going to do before you did it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to kind of like the biggest surprise for me, at least in spring training, is Trace Thompson. So we all kind of know Trace Thompson. We touched on him a couple weeks ago. We kind of know him from the Dodgers. We know him from Klay Thompson, his brother that plays for, I don't even know where Klay Thompson is now. Dallas, maybe? I don't even know. I don't watch the NBA. But anyways, he has hit 5 home runs this spring and hit a grand slam yesterday or Friday. Is he on this team? Does he make this team? And
well, it's kind of, he's actually got 6 home runs now because I think he hit another one. I find it a little interesting that the Red Sox, there's a rumor from the Red Sox they're out there looking for a right-handed bat. When you've got guys like Thompson in camp who are just crushing. Now, I get it. You probably don't believe that's who he's going to be because it's never who he's been. But like, wouldn't you at least want to find out? Like, if you're looking for a right-handed bat in the outfield and you've got a guy who's absolutely tearing spring training apart, hitting 364 with 6 bombs, like, isn't it worth looking at least?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So I feel like it's strange that they're talking about this when you've got Thompson. But as it stands right now, I don't know how you don't break camp with him unless doing that takes Roman Anthony's spot away. Because you got to keep in mind, in all this, you've got to find a home for Bregman. You've got Devers coming back. You've got Ref Snyder, who's also played well. You've got David Hamilton out there. You got Roman Anthony in the mix. Like, the Red Sox are in a spot where you've got too many butts for the seats that you have.
Yep.
And which is a great problem to have and not one they've had in a long time. But you are in a spot now where you've got to like pick and choose who you really want to take with you in April. And if the choice is Trace Thompson or Roman Anthony, I don't know what you do. I would take Trace Thompson and I would send Roman Anthony to AAA and say, look, kid, sit tight. You're going to be back. Go get some at bats, continue to work on these things and we'll be calling you soon. And you let Trace Thompson show you what he can do. If he hits like this all season, you look like a superhero. If he plays like crap in April, then you send him down and bring Anthony up later in the month. Like, you got nothing to lose.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I think you ride the hot bat until it fizzles out, and then you send him down and pull up Anthony, just like that. We were kind of expecting last year the Orioles to start with Holiday, and then they sent him down to start the season. And then eventually made his way back up. I think that's what the Red Sox should do with Anthony at this point. I would love for him to make the team, but if this guy's bat's on fire and he comes into Boston to start the season and, gets you 5 or 6 home runs in the month of April and then fizzles out in May, yeah, DFA him and then bring up Anthony, and then that's it. You're not losing anything if you do it that way.
You're not. And the other angle too in all this, I mean, he's 33, so it's not like you've got no long runway here. Like, this might just be a great hot streak. But the other angle is you've got no spot for Trace Thompson. You ring up some teams and bring a prospect in and just say thanks for the time and good luck. You don't fit here. Yeah. It's a good problem to have either way.
Yep. Send him to Miami and that Alcantara deal.
Yeah, there you go. Well, they're not going to want a guy who's 33. He's like 10 years older than all the other guys.
Yeah, but if it's a 1-year contract, they might take it.
A 33-year-old would be the oldest guy on the team, which is
by far
mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
By far, yeah.
Half those guys are going to need him to go buy beer for him.
You ain't lying. All right. A couple weeks ago, Sox added some veteran bullpen arms. I don't know what their status is kind of going into the season here, but Adam Ottavino back with the Sox. Matt Moore, they were non-roster invites, and then they signed Nick Burdi to a minor league contract. I think this is more of just bullpen depth because we all know the status of the Red Sox bullpen, and that is, I think, our biggest issue going into the season. So these are guys that, if they stay with the Sox, could be arms we see throughout the year, either coming up from the minors or just kind of chilling out in the bullpen there.
Yeah, as with pitching, always there's never enough arms.
Right.
Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to struggle. You're gonna have guys that just get gassed and need a break. You bring in as many as you can, and see what happens. Although I will say the flashback to Ottavino when he was here the first time, he was awful the first time in Boston. I mean, he had a 4+ ERA. I mean, he was I shouldn't say awful. He just wasn't very effective. He blew a lot of late leads pitching out of the 8th inning. It wasn't a good experience, but he does have good stuff.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it a long time. So I love the fact that they're adding depth because inevitably something's going to happen. And then you've got guys like Winkowski, who's not doing well this spring. Like he's not pitching well, and you expect him to be a contributor. So you may have to make some moves.
Yep. All right. I put this in here because this guy's got the best nickname going in MLB right now. Justinson. Yes, that's how you say it. Justinson Garcia. They're calling him the password, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
Amazing.
But he spent most of his year splitting between A+ and AA in Portland. He had 18 home runs, 47 RBIs in 83 games. So not bad, but I mean, he's played quite a bit in the spring. We've seen him come up in these games quite a bit. So I think the Red Sox are high on him. And another outfielder. So, I mean, we'll see where he fits, but I mean, he's not going to make the team out of spring.
No, he got optioned to minor league camp this afternoon while you were at the basketball game.
Oh, gotcha.
So they made the first round of cut downs and he was one of them. But the organization's very high on him. But he's spent, like you said, most of the year splitting between A and AA. Like he's very raw, very young. And clearly was never going to make this team. And I think it was smart to just say, hey, thanks for stopping by. Hope you got something out of it. Go down to minor league camp, get ready for the season, kid. I would imagine they'll probably start him in AA, and maybe you'll see him in Worcester before the season's over. But he's impressive. He's got some skills. Yeah. And again, this Red Sox farm system is loaded with these guys that have high ceilings, just loaded.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. So all the way from Brazil.
Nice.
Pretty cool. That's awesome. Welcome. That's awesome.
Love that. Bet your weather's a lot better than mine.
Probably. Garrett Whitlock here. So he came out and said, believes his move to the bullpen is best for his long-term health. And I agree fully. I'm completely on board. I think this is where we need Garrett Whitlock, first of all, to get the most out of what he can offer. I mean, he was decent as a starter. Was he great? No. Was he bad? No. But I think if we're going to get a healthy Garrett Whitlock, we got to keep him in the bullpen for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he had a sub 2 ERA and 4 starts last year before he got hurt. He's got good stuff. Like Whitlock has some incredibly good stuff. He's got some stuff that has some just nasty movement on it. And he's proven to be very effective. He gets a lot of ground balls. He gets a fair number of strikeouts. He tends to fill up the strike zone. And a guy like that in the bullpen would be huge.
Yeah.
And, he got the internal brace procedure in the offseason because it was determined that was the best course of action for him. He's had plenty of rest. And so far indications are he's back. Like he's all the way back. He looks great. And I do think, a bullpen move, some guys don't view a bullpen move as something that helps their kind of career span because the up and the down, the getting ready, the not getting ready, the not getting used. But if you can actually kind of manage his workload and make sure when he gets up, he comes in and doesn't just like get up and sit down and then get up again later in the game and you have the up and down situation, it could be great because if you can get, 80 innings out of him that are highly effective, then I would take that over trying to push him for 150 when you might lose him for all of next year.
Yep. 1,000% agree.
But I think him in the bullpen is a massive asset to this team.
Yep. So to add another wrinkle into this whole lineup debacle I wouldn't say debacle, but issues that the Red Sox have, Masataka Yoshida comes off a torn labrum and first pitch he sees hits a ground rule double, drives in 2, next at bat, hits a base hit up the middle, drives in another one. And it's like, all right, now he's kind of tearing the cover off the ball here in the spring. What do the Red Sox do with Masataka Yoshida?
Yeah,
if Devers is going in that DH role, which we're all kind of thinking he's gonna, where the heck is this guy gonna play? Because he can't play defense.
No, but I will say he spent a lot of time in left field, like on backfields and before games. Like he spent a lot of time in the outfield trying to get comfortable. And he does not seem super athletic. He does not have a good arm. He does not seem to have great range. He doesn't read the ball well. At Fenway, will that hurt you? Maybe not. But again, like, where does he fit? If Abreu is going to miss the start of the season, that changes things a little bit because it opens up a spot temporarily. But if you put Yoshida on this roster, who doesn't come with you? Does that mean Roman Anthony has to go down? Does that mean that there's no spot for Campbell? Does that mean that Rob Refsnyder goes to AAA? Like would I take Refsnyder over Yoshida? Probably not, but I'd at least think about it.
Yeah.
We're seeing out of Yoshida this spring, the guy we thought we were going to see more of. He's hit a bunch of line drives in the gap, balls down the line. He came here to hit, and he hasn't really.
Right.
And that's the problem. If he's not going to hit, there's no spot for him because he can't play defense, and you can't have a DH that doesn't hit. And that was the problem last year, is that he was just super ineffective when he played.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the torn shoulder, it sounded like he tried to battle through it and then just ultimately couldn't. But I don't know where he fits. Honestly, even if he's healthy, I just don't know. I think I would rather see Anthony in left, Rafaela at second, Bregman at third, and Rafi DH. And I still think going into the season, that's your strongest potential lineup. Like I know you said Abreu's on the shelf for a little bit, so it changes it a little bit. But then maybe Thompson's that plug until Abreu comes back. I've said it before. I was really high on this signing. I was excited. We saw him in the WBC, and we're like, hell yeah, he's coming to Boston. This is going to be sick. And he just hasn't quite gotten there yet. And it's been a little frustrating as a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can turn the corner.
Yeah, and Cora had said, what was this? Sometime middle of last week, they're talking about him about Yoshida, and Yoshida's still throwing at only 45 feet. He's still very limited physically. The Red Sox are not convinced he breaks spring training with the big club. He may have to stay behind for some additional conditioning and arm work. So he's another guy who may not be ready till middle to late April. Depending on how things play out. And that might be a way that you buy some time to see how these other guys settle in, because if you break camp with Roman Anthony, he tears the cover off the ball in April, well, Yoshida stays down there longer and continues to rehab.
Yeah.
Again, the Red Sox have too many butts for the seats for the first time in a long time, and it's going to require them to make some decisions. And one of those decisions might be to use Yoshida as your uncertain injury kind of guy who just hangs out in Florida until you need him. Or it may force them to make a trade and just say, look, it doesn't fit. We gotta send him.
John, all right, we'll take some. We have plenty of lobster. Oh, we send lobster. I got you. Yeah. We'll see. I don't even know where your poor Mariners are going, buddy.
But at the same time, though, John, I actually think Yoshida would be an upgrade in that lineup. He might be one of your best hitters. You might want to pull the trigger on that trade. Take Yoshida and some lobster for some prospects and some salmon.
Yep. Crazy.
But I think the Red Sox, are going to use Yoshida to buy some time to figure it out. Let guys play, see where they fit, see how they do, and maybe they end up having to make a trade, and he's got to go.
Yeah.
And I will say, you and Sean were both really high on this signing when it happened. I wasn't. I thought they overpaid. I just didn't see it. The team also was not nearly as good 2 years ago. Like, he was a big upgrade at a bad time.
That's fair.
But I didn't like the trade because I thought they overpaid for a guy who was just all bat. And now we're sitting in the spot that I think many of us were afraid of, is that he really is just all bat. And you've got all the young guys ready to go and they want to push him out.
Yeah.
And maybe the Red Sox let him get pushed out. You don't owe him so much money. You can't do some things or find a trade partner and just dump him. But they've got some decisions to make, and they've got like 2.5 weeks to do it.
Yeah, I do think they overpaid, like, even when they did sign him, but I also thought you were going to get a little bit more productivity out of him than they have. if that makes sense. I know I'm kind of sitting on the fence there, but
yeah, I mean, we
like,
looked at his numbers in Japan and said, okay, look, you can take his batting average down probably 10%. You're going to cut his home runs and RBIs by 10 or 15%. And what you look at is a pretty good major league hitter that they paid too much for.
yeah,
The problem is he hasn't even given you that yet.
right. Yeah. And I think that's what I was expecting. Like I was expecting a decrease, as you usually do,
Yeah.
unless you're a freak like Shohei Ohtani.
Yes.
But I expected a little bit more than what we've gotten, I guess. So
Yeah, he has not performed to the expectation people had.
No.
But he's also as limited as we feared he would be in terms of what he can do. He is a DH. That's all he is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with Giolito and Sandoval not on track to come back until May, July, somewhere in there, Quinn Priester and our boy Richard Fitz have a chance to make impacts at the back end of the rotation here. Who do we see kind of makes a bigger impact here? I know we got Quinn Priester from the Pirates towards the end of the season for Nick York, and we were kind of gave up Nick York. But I mean, we also didn't really hear anything about Christian Campbell at that point. And then after Nick York left, we really started hearing Christian Campbell's name, and we've been able to see him. So that's why the Red Sox were like, hey, this could be a good deal for us, and Priester could be fairly valuable for us because we need arms. How are we feeling about these two guys at this moment?
I mean, I think Richard Fitz has proven to be a serviceable arm. I don't know that he's got like a big future, but I think he's a guy who, he could be a 4 or 5 starter and probably be okay for you. Also could be a very effective bullpen arm. I've been really impressed with Quinn Priester this spring training. And I will admit, I was the loudest guy on this show last year saying, I think the trade for Nick York was a mistake. Nick York was your second baseman of the future. Quinn Priester is a can't hack it reliever. Who's got great stuff, but has no idea where it's going. And then, of course, Christian Campbell had a massive second half last year, and now it's like Nick York who. But more importantly, Quinn Priester was a guy who was 91 to 93. He pitched the other day. He was consistently 95 to 97. Like they found a hitch in his delivery that has unleashed some velocity. But more importantly than that, it's also helped him with his command. I mean, he was dotting the strike zone the other day at 95 to 97 consistently.
Yeah.
I am now eating crow saying Quinn Priester could end up being a hell of a pickup. I don't know that Quinn Priester helps you as a starter. I from what I saw from him, I don't think he's got starter stuff. I think that the second or third time through they'd light him up. But a guy in the 7th or 8th inning, he could be insanely effective for you.
Yeah.
But with his newfound command and velocity and all that, give him a shot. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see what he can do.
Yeah.
But I'm much more impressed with him than I ever thought I would be.
Yeah. And I mean, if he's a 4 or 5 starter, you could live with be like, hey, Quinn, get us through this lineup twice. We'll get you out in the middle of the 5th, middle of the 6th, whatever. And we'll have the bullpen take it the rest of the way, until Giolito and Richard Fitz comes back. Oh, report just came through that Garrett Cole might be getting Tommy John.
Oh, did you hear that sound? That was the collective sigh of millions of Yankees fans.
Yeah. Yeah, it just came through my phone.
Yeah, so I saw this morning that he had gotten imaging done and he was off to get a second opinion because they didn't like the result.
Yeah.
That dude, if they lose him for the whole season and probably half of next.
Yeah.
And then you lose Heel for the first half. Ooh, that's good. That rotation just got thin in a hurry.
Yes, it did. But
so all right, good thing it happened before a prediction show because that's going to dramatically change how we see things shaping up.
1,000%. So
wow.
Anyways, all right. We'll stay on the Red Sox pitching wagon here for a minute. Garrett Crochet is open to extension. Just, he was very vocal about it. As soon as the trade happened, he's like, yep, let's go. Open it up. Give me an extension. I'd love to stay here in Boston. Without even throwing a pitch yet, he was like, give me the extension. But he has set a deadline for opening day. Do we think an extension gets done before that?
And I feel like this situation puts the Red Sox in a tough spot. So Garrett Crochet was nasty last year. That was the first time in his life he'd been that nasty. So now here the Red Sox make the trade. They give up some big prospects. Kyle Teal was the original member of the Big Three until Christian Campbell took his spot when he got traded. He comes over. You've seen him pitch 9 innings, and he wants to get paid. And I don't blame him. The Red Sox, they signed a 1-year, $3.8 million contract for 25 to avoid arbitration. He does have one more year of arbitration next year. But the Red Sox are in a spot where you don't know what you have yet, but he wants a new contract. If you don't give him the new contract and he goes out and has a monster season this year, he may tell you next year he's not even going to talk about it. He's going to just go test the market. Or you can give him the big contract. He can go out and not be who you think he is. Although I think the sample set you've seen this spring, that's unlikely. But you don't really know what you've got. Will an extension get done? I think ultimately the Red Sox are going to do everything they can to get this guy extended because, he pitched the other day and it was 4 innings. He was throwing 101. He was blowing guys away.
Yeah.
Just blowing guys away.
Yeah.
The stuff is undeniable.
Yeah.
The track record is just bumpy because of health.
Yeah. I think you have to get the extension done for everything you just said. If he goes out, has a Cy Young caliber year, not saying he's going to win the Cy Young, but has a really good season, he's not going to talk an extension next year.
Right.
I think you take the risk, and the Red Sox have the wallet to take that risk. You have to take the gamble and get this guy extended. If you've done all of this maneuvering to get starting pitching back in Boston, which we have desperately needed. I said earlier in the show, we have desperately needed starting pitching, good starting pitching for a while now. You have a chance here. You possibly, as soon as if Bueller opens that door at all, you got to jump on that. I want these guys here because we need stable starting pitching because we have not had it.
Yep.
I think you take the risk. You do, just like you said, do everything you can to get him extended before the start of the season.
Yeah. So he's 26 years old. So just think about this for a second, Nick. Last year he made 32 starts, and in 146 innings he struck out 209 guys.
Yes, please.
He is Chris Sale 2.0. And that could go one of two ways. It could be the Chris Sale you got that you won in 2018 with, or the Chris Sale that spent 3 years on the IL and then went to Atlanta.
And look,
I don't know which one he is.
And look, it's shaping up to be almost exactly the same scenario where the Red Sox could come in, possibly win a World Series, and then he's crap for the rest of the contract. It's almost legit shaping up the same exact way, which would suck. I don't want it to happen that way, right. But it's almost like deja vu all over again.
Yeah, it 100% is deja vu all over again, Yogi. But it is. This is Chris Sale 2.0. Trade with the White Sox, left-handed guy, crazy good stuff, bumpy health track record. And flip a coin. But the Red Sox need the anchor pitcher. You need that one guy who is the guy you build around. And I think you have to look at it and say, when I look at what I got, Crochet is that guy.
Yep.
I need to lock him up long term and know that I've got no worries at the one spot. And then I'll figure the rest of it out. But you need that solid one. Look at the teams that have been in the playoffs consistently. Solid number one. Number one has to be the anchor. You need the stopper.
Yep. 1,000%. And John, you're right. And he's a lefty. We haven't. Sale. When the Red Sox have been good, really good, they've had that one lefty that has incredible stuff. John Lester. Garrett Crochet, the Red Sox when they were successful had, that's what I meant. I meant
for a year.
Crochet, right? But you still had that lefty.
You did,
and that's when they were successful. I think a deal has to get done here, no doubt.
Yeah, I will it get done? I sure hope so, but it's a tight window to squeeze this one in.
Yeah, if they haven't started talking yet, that's what makes me kind of worried. They probably have. There's probably
reports are they've been talking since the trade, and they've kind of exchanged some things, and it sounds like they're not that far off. I think the sticking point is I think Crochet wants a longer deal than the Red Sox are currently proposing. They're happy to pay him the AAV he wants, but I don't think they're offering him the years he wants, was what I last heard. So
gotcha.
I mean, there's a lot of ways around that. You know, if you want 7 years, give him 5 with a couple of options and let him vest over time if he hits certain ending pitch milestones. Pick something.
Right.
Yeah, you can work around that issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need the anchor.
Yep. Agree fully. All right. To end rounding third Boston like we always do, let's throw some trivia at you, Harrison. So this again is a 2024 Red Sox trivia. All right. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Who appeared in the most games out of the bullpen for the Red Sox in 2024?
Boy, so you've got Jansen made a bunch of appearances. Bernardino made a bunch. Slayton made a bunch, right?
Mm-hmm. You did mention this guy earlier in the show, saying that he hasn't pitched well this spring.
Bernardino?
Nope.
Oh, Winkowski?
Oh, nope. The other W.
Weissert.
Weissert, yes.
It's like, which W?
Yes. Greg Weissert, 62 appearances last year.
The Red Sox the bullpen was actually, I mean, the bullpen wasn't good, but it was consistently the same group of guys. There's a lot of guys that got a lot of appearances.
Yeah. Hopefully that changes.
You mean the appearances or the effectiveness?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the guys with, we don't want appearances out of the bullpen. It means our starters are doing their job. And then we also want them to be more effective when they get in there. So
that's fair.
Whatever.
A lot of appearances is not a good sign.
Yeah. All right. Who plunked the most batters for the Red Sox in 2024?
Oh, it's got to be based on innings pitched. So I would say it's got to be either Crawford, Bayo, or Houck.
Okay, so pick one.
My gut says Crawford because he made the most starts. So I'll go Crawford with Houck as my backup.
It is Tanner Houck.
I'm hedging my bets here.
Yeah, 16.
16's a lot.
Yep. All right, next one. Which Red Sox pitcher walked the most batters in 2024?
That's probably the other guy I was talking about. It's got to be Bayo, right?
It is Bayo. Yeah.
He drives me. He nibbles and he drives me crazy, but his stuff is so good.
Yeah, he walked 64.
That's actually not that bad. I mean,
it's not terrible, but
it's not great, but it's not that bad. I mean, I've seen worse.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen Red Sox pitchers walk 64 in an inning. Ryan Brazier. Anyways,
but he's got a ring for it. So
yeah. All right. Which Red Sox pitcher led the team in strikeouts in 2024?
Is that also Houck?
No, sir.
Oh. Is that Crawford because he made the most starts?
It is Cutter Crawford. 175 strikeouts.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah, not terrible.
And the hard part, too, is in all this, like, where does Crawford fit in? With all this rotation, maneuvering, and injuries, like, where does he fit?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
but
it really is.
I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah. I love the fact they've got more people than they've got spots for.
Yeah. All right. And here's the last one I got. I went back to the old Boston Marathon colors here. Jamie
Moyer. You know, I mean, close, but actually, as Nick would say, great guess, but not him.
Who were the top 5 home run leaders for the Red Sox in home runs in 2024? I put home runs in there twice. So just in case you didn't know, I need the top 5 home run leaders for the Red Sox in home runs in 2024.
Yeah. The Office of Redundancy Department or the Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah.
Well, we know Tyler O'Neill had the most.
Yep. 31.
So Devers has to be in the 5.
28, number 2.
And then there's a bunch of guys that were like mid to high teens. Oh, Duran had over 20, right?
21. Duran's 3.
And then there's a couple of guys, or a handful of guys. You had Abreu wasn't that far off. You had Rafaela.
Yeah, you just got him. Abreu and Rafaela with 15 each. So, 18 each. Sorry. Yep. So O'Neill 31, Devers 28, Duran 21, Abreu and Rafaela with 18.
Yeah,
apiece.
Rafaela had a really strong finish to the year. Hit a bunch.
Yeah.
Connor Wong probably wasn't that far off from that group either.
No, I think he was around like 15 or 16, I
Yeah.
think is what he had. But yeah. All right. That's all I had for rounding third. Boston, do you have anything to add before we head out to the big show?
No, I think we hit everything. It's the Red Sox, like you said, I'm excited about the Red Sox for the first time in probably 4 years.
Yeah.
Where there's been like a real hope for something to happen. And tons of young guys, you got veterans playing well, like too many players. It's an awesome problem to finally have again.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm anxious to see like what choices are made for the opening day roster, just to see where these pieces land. I think is what I'm like. I'm excited about it. I'm anxious about it. I mean, just kind of like every fan is really going into the season. They're like, what is this season going to bring? Everybody starts undefeated. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm pumped. I'm ready for it to start. For sure.
Yeah.
I already got those the first 2 days of opening weekend off. So I'm sitting on my couch and I'm got every screen on with baseball games on. So I'm ready.
Oh man, I'm so ready for MLB TV to be fired up. I'm ready to have multiple games going. I'm ready to be like overwhelmed with baseball on a nightly basis and then watching the recaps every morning. Like,
oh, for sure.
I can't wait. One thing I brought up that I wanted to come back to real quick is the Trevor Story scouting report I mentioned. So there's a scouting report that came out a couple days ago that Sean McAdams shared. There were some discussions about Trevor Story, his recovery, etc. The scout had this to say: my biggest concern with him is I just don't think he's a shortstop. It is what it is from a defensive perspective and arm perspective and all that. But it's hard for me to buy in that he's going to be what you want from your everyday shortstop. They've got no choice. He has to be. Range is a bit of an issue, but it's more about his arm than anything. The arm just doesn't play, and it didn't play before he got the surgery. Offensively, it's the same. You can get him out with plus fastballs. It's always been the book on him. If you've got a guy that throws high octane, just throw the high octane, let it out. That was a senior scout's report on where Trevor Story currently is. Range isn't great. Arm's not great. It didn't get better it wasn't great beforehand. It didn't get better with the injury, and his bat still is what it is. In the meantime, he's having a great spring. But I think it's something worth noting that there are now people in the organization that are saying, hey, look, like, let's keep an eye on this guy because he's not where we thought he'd be.
I mean, that's fair because I mean, even before he was hurt last year, we saw a lot of Ks on, letter high fastballs. He just could not get to him. Kind of like Pete Alonso in that aspect. Just high velocity was just taking care of Trevor Story, where early in his career, you couldn't throw the guy fastballs because he had hit it 400 feet.
He mashed everything hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that definitely is something. And then again, like you said, like a luxury of having all those young guys that, yeah, you're paying Trevor Story a good chunk of money, but if he doesn't perform, like the Red Sox are in a spot where they're going to be like, hey, we need you to fix something. We're going to play, Meyer. We're going to play Campbell until you can figure it out. And sometimes good major league hitters, when they struggle at the plate, the best thing for them to do is to go out there until it clicks.
Yep.
And hopefully this spring, that's what happened to Trevor Story. Like he found it, it's clicked, but you're also not facing their top 5 pitchers in their organizations right now.
You're not.
As we get to these next week and a half, 2 weeks before the season starts, we're going to start seeing a little bit more major league ready arms. We'll see if his bat stays hot. Because if it is, then I'll be all on board with Trevor Story. Until then, I'm still kind of pussyfooting around it.
Yeah, I'm not confident. I'm hopeful. He's showing great. Mm-hmm. He's showing some great signs that he's all the way back. He looks good. He's playing well. The question we have, and you just hit it, is will it last? Will it last into the season, or into more competitive at bats?
Right.
And how does he hold up? And that's the one question. But again, like you mentioned, if he's not hitting well, or he's struggling, or he gets hurt, God forbid, you've got plenty of reinforcement. So the Red Sox are in a much different spot depth wise than they were even last year. Because last year we said the Red Sox biggest weakness going into last year was the depth. Somebody gets hurt, they're screwed.
Yeah.
They got so much depth now, it's not even funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm here for it. So
Love it.
all right. Before you go, make sure you hit that follow and like button on Facebook, Rounding Third Boston. It is a separate page from our Rounding Third Baseball. So we're trying to also grow the Rounding Third Boston page. And next week, we'll be exclusively going on the Rounding Third Boston page. We will not be on our Rounding Third Baseball page. We'll just be on the Rounding Third Boston. So if you want to come back to the Boston page, make sure you hit that follow and like button. As always, thank you to everybody in the chat for chiming in on the shows. That's why we do this. We love this. We love talking baseball with you. So keep coming back every week. We will be back on in a couple minutes for the big show. I keep calling it the Rounding Third Baseball. So tune into that. Until then, Red Sox Nation, we will see you next Sunday at 8 p.m.
Yep. And if you're loving the Boston show, don't forget to follow the Boston page where it's going to be going forward.